Oh, right, readers. Those clocks, they are striking 13, so let us begin. Now, last week I was talking about Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. And I was talking about what a beautiful book it was. And that got me to thinking, what is another just truly beautiful book to sit down and read? Now, this led me to pick up, for the third or fourth time, Jeanette Winterson's The Passion. Now, this book, I think it is the most beautiful book that I have ever read. Honestly, no hyperbole here. It is just a damn beautiful book to sit down and read. And I would argue that of all the books that have come out in the last 30, 40 years, I think it has the best chance of living eternal. You know, like Twain's Huckleberry Finn or Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. I think this is one of those books that is going to go on in perpetuity. It's just going to go on forever because it's better than us. It is that piece of art that it's striking. It moves something down in us, in our humanity, I guess in our souls. It just speaks to it so perfectly, so plainly. I mean, really, the passion of this winter's been bad here in the Midwest. It's been icy, it's been snowy. For a couple weeks, all the trees, all the power lines were just encased in ice. And during the daytime, the sun would shine, and it would illuminate all of that ice and covered everything, and the entire world would glow. That's what the passion is like. It just glows. Or if you want to get literary about it, it's like in the Silmarillion, when the elves are creating the world. They do it by moonlight. They do it by the stars, so that the entire world is illumined. This book is pretty mysterious. It's kind of shrouded. Maybe it's more like those elves working in the moonlight, kind of working in mystery. It's that type of beauty, the beauty of the moon, the beauty of the stars. That's what kind of book I'm going to be talking about today. And I always talk about the progression of an author, like Twain leads to Steinbeck, which leads to Bradbury, which leads to King. Or you got Oliver Goldsmith, who leads to Charles Dickens. Or before those guys, you got Chaucer leading into really the entire English language and literary movement. I don't really know the progression that leads to the passion. I can't describe it. Mainly it's my own fault. I don't read enough women authors, and Jeanette Winterson, she writes in a distinctly female tone. It is clearly a book by a woman. So I don't know if she read a lot of the Bronte sisters or Emily Dickinson or Virginia Woolf. I haven't read those good ladies enough. So it kind of angers me. I don't know the progression that led us to get this piece of art that Jeanette gave us. But really, do yourself a favor. Pick this book up. Let me get to the bad of the book first. This is a book that you're going to have to read twice. I mean, it's not a bad thing. Like I said, I've read it 3 or 4 times now and enjoyed the hell out of it every time. But it's filled with mystery. Like I said, I'm going to keep using the words mystery and shrouded over and over again because those are the most apt words for this book. For the non-readers, it's like one day I got really stoned and I went to the movies and I watched The Fifth Element. It's an old Bruce Willis sci-fi flick from the mid-90s. But I got stoned to the bejesus and went and watched this movie. And after it was over, I thought, that was awesome. But what the fuck did I just watch? Now, when I first read The Passion, I wasn't stoned in any way. I read it for college. Junior year, some 451 class, I believe. Great class. But when I finished The Passion, I thought, wow, this book was awesome. But I have no idea what I just read. It's just, not that it's a confusing book, but it's a mysterious book. But I knew that it somehow spoke to me deep inside, so I had to go back and reread it to really see what it said, what it was doing, and how it did it so well. We're going to take a look at all that, how The Passion is just, goddamn, just the best book of the later half of the 20th century. And like I said, I think just one of those books that'll live forever. We'll look into what makes it one of these modern-day classics after our word from our sponsor, next. Today's book report is brought to you by Tits. Tits! Please them, squeeze them, tease them, stick your head between them and go, Celebrate the naturals and applaud the fakes. There's a whole school of doctors devoted to God's greatest creation because they feed the babies and appease the bloodlust of the dudes. So men, women, and weirdos who designate themselves as other. Everybody out there, fall to your knees and thank the powers above for tits. Alright guys, so The Passion by Jeanette Winterson, first published back in 1987. There's a couple different ways you can classify this book. The easiest would be to say that this book is historical fiction. And that is apt because it is set during the age of the Napoleonic Wars. But I think a better way to classify this book would be as a fairy tale. At least, this book is what we thought of as fairy tales as a kid. For the readers out there, if you've picked up Grimm's fairy tales or Aesop's fables, they're not very good reads. Even 1001 Nights, those tales by Sherazade, or whatever the hell her name was, they're not that great of reads. The stories themselves are good, but while reading it, they're not that great. And sure, fairy tales are kid stories. The best example are probably the Disney flicks. The Disney flicks encapture the fairy tale perfectly. And that's what this book does, to perfection. It weaves together a modern fairy tale with that kind of child's limelight, even though there's sex and murder and all those adult themes. It's done in such a way I compared it to the Elves of the Silmarillion. I did that because this book, with real characters, it's filled with magics, but believable magics, like boatmen with webbed feet walking on water, magical eye of a soldier who can see a naked girl 15 miles away. And I love that because if any dude did really have an eye that could look 15 miles away, he'd look at naked women. His purpose is to look out for the army, but he's watching naked chicks. Hell yeah for him. Anyway, The Passion. This is a novel in 4 sections. The first section is really the introduction to us of Henry. Now, the beginning of the book, it's a little confusing, but it plays into the strengths, the fairy tale aspect, the mysteryness of the book. You see, Henry isn't identified until page 23. For the first 20 pages, you're reading a lot of he's, they's, it's. But that's good, because this is a book of mystery and confusion. Now, Henry, he's a soldier. And his passion, that's the theme of this book, not just the title, it's also the theme, is the passions of life. His passion is Napoleon. Like most of the French, he fell in love with Napoleon. No matter what he told them that they could do, they would do it. They believed the little emperor. They loved and they worshipped the ground he walked on. At one point, Henry likens him to the second coming of the Christ. He was going to carry France to new highs and to make them the empire that the people deserved. And the people followed him, including Henry. He signs up to the army, and a lot of this first chapter is the introduction to a soldier's life. Just the everyday little things that happen to a soldier. It shows Henry just missing home and his mom. He misses the valley he grew up in, the little brook going along the farm. And the soldiers, they're told that they won't be killing people. They will only be killing the enemy. Because after all, who is the enemy? Someone not on your side. And the people not on your side, they are not really people. And we get the soldiers talking to each other, and it's fun. Like I said, it's crass talk about sex. They tell lies about the enemies, the English. Them damn English devils who will eat their own dead and even their own children. But this is to build up for the war. They have to tell lies about the enemy. They have to feel good about those they are going to be asked to kill in the future. And to keep it soldierly and to keep morale up, when Napoleon loses the war against England, that's not a defeat to the little emperor. They weren't even the enemy to begin with. The poor French were tricked by them dirty devil bastards in Russia. So, they go to Russia. They march up north because that's been the enemy all along. And the soldiers, they never fall out of favor with Napoleon. He blends this in such a way that they all believe him and they love him. Henry can see the infidelities of a priest, but To him, Napoleon is all things pure. At one point, he's even envious of Josephine, the bride-to-be of the little emperor. He's envious of her because Napoleon is passionate about her. Henry wants that passion for himself. He wants his love returned. This whole section is just hope. It is the hope of a young man entering the world. It is the hope of a nation entering into war with other nations. The first chapter, while an introduction to Henry the character, is just hope-filled, and it gets you ready for the rest of the book. Like when we move on to chapter 2, we get introduced to Villanelle. Or she's Italian. Maybe it's Villanelle. Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I'll never do that again. We're just going to call her Villanelle. Now, Villanelle is, what a wonderful character. She's a young woman, and she has many passions. She is passionate about dressing up as a boy, cross-dressing, which is nice because it kind of goes back to the beginning. When I said the first chapter is confusing, it's a little bit so because the way Ms. Winterson writes, she's a woman, so it's kind of perfumey, kind of flowery. So when I first started this book, I thought Henry was a girl. Until, like I said, on page 23, we were told that it is a man. And it plays into the strengths of this book. Because then in chapter 2, when you get the main character, she is a girl, but she dresses like a boy. Again, all mysterious, all shrouded. But that's good because Villanelle lives in the city of Venice, the city on canals, a city of mystery. And Villanelle, she makes her living as a gambler. And again, why the secret of why men gamble? Why risk what you have? Why? For the greater gain, the greater good. And besides just working in the casinos, it's one of her hobbies to watch the gamblers, to see what they will risk, what is really precious to them, what the gamblers are passionate about, what they are willing to lose. Now, throughout her life, she was born under mysterious circumstances. Her father was a boatman. Now, in a city of canals such as Venice, the boatmen are the most revered people in the city. Even the boatmen themselves, they are birthed in mysterious canals beneath the city. This is where Villanelle was born, beneath the city itself. And at times of confusion, she retreats to the safety of these sewers and these underground tunnels. Her philosopher/therapist/mysterious friend is this dirty old woman who lives in one of the sewers. She has animals and plants and just shit growing out of her hair on her head. But this is her wise friend. This is who Villanelle seeks out for counsel. And to play into some more mystery, Villanelle is approached by a fat man who Henry met. Later on, we find out that the would-be suitor of Villanelle is the cook from Henry's past. In chapter 1, the villain really of the book is the cook and the head cook in Napoleon's army. But we know he's a villain because he's introduced as a drunkard. He's rough with women. He goes out a whoring every night. Now, on one of these drunken whoring nights, he can't prepare Napoleon's meal. He gets fired for it, whereas Henry is raised in Napoleon standards for being a good soldier, a sober soldier. Once being dismissed from the army, this fat blubber of a man of a cook makes his way to Venice, where, also to kind of get the villainy up on him, he falls in love with Villanelle, but he loves her cross-dressed. He wants her dressed like a boy. Ugh. And then we find what Villanelle becomes passionate about. Henry had Napoleon. Villanelle finds this older lady, this old, mature woman. Just stirs feelings deep down in Villanelle. Luckily for her, the older lady, the mistress, I believe she's referred to in the book, her husband's gone on business. So the two of them engage in a secret love affair. And Villanelle becomes passionate about this. She loves this older woman. She quite literally gives her heart to this woman. This is one of the fun things when something magical happens in this book. Miss Winterson ends the magical happenings with, look, I'm telling you stories, guys. Trust me. Again, to just raise up that intrigue and that mystery. I'm telling you stories, guys. Trust me. Did it happen? Didn't it happen? It's left up to us to decide. So Villanelle, she leaves her heart with this woman. But she leaves it because she knows that as much as she's in love with this lady, she can never have her. It can't be hers. It can't be her own special thing that she could risk and gamble away. Because when the husband returns from business, he sees that the two really are in love. Even though the lady was willing to engage in an adulterous affair, her heart belongs to her husband. Villanelle may have given her heart to her, but the same can't be returned. It's another theme of this book is unreturned passion. Villanelle doesn't get it from her mistress. Henry can't get his own love reciprocated from Napoleon. Another theme, guys. Unattained love. No matter how beautiful your own love may be, if it doesn't come back from what you place your love in, it's never fulfilled. And thus, we lead into chapter 3 and the conflicts of the story. We'll have that and the conclusion of the book right after one more quick word from our sponsors. Hey guys, are you wanting to get back to the old world of Europe, but all of these reports of centaur attacks have got you thinking twice? Well, put those second guesses behind you with Uncle Micaiah's old-timey anti-centaur elixir. Thanks to the latest scientific advancements and villagers' backward thinking and other folklore hogwash, your Uncle Micaiah has combined fairy tears with griffin blood to make the only elixir available on the black market guaranteed to ward off any and all centaur attacks. So don't allow your virgin daughters to be ravaged or your sons to be butchered by these once thought to be mythological beasts. Visit where your heart desires and fight off old world problems with Uncle Micaiah's old-timey anti-centaur elixir. Available only on Uncle Micaiah's farm at the Crossroads. Visit him and his good old band of gypsies today. So guys, then we get chapter 3, where Henry and Villanelle finally meet. At this point in their lives, they're in two different places. Henry is falling out of love with Napoleon. The constant fighting, the constant marching, especially through Russia, Plus he sees that the Russian citizens, they're no different than him. They love their Tsar the same as he loves Napoleon. And it makes him realize he's not special. His love's not special. This leads to his heart breaking. He's no longer in love with Napoleon. And the point is brought up beautifully here by Ms. Winterson that what follows love is hate. Not only are you no longer in love with the person, you hate that person. Because they were unworthy of your love. They wasted your time. And that's something that's precious, is your time, and it was wasted. And Villanelle, at this point, she's a whore. Now, I'm not making fun of the poor girl. She's literally a whore. She was sold by her fat slob of a husband to the French officers for their own amusement. And when someone is sold to officers for their own amusement and it's a woman, you know what that means. But they defect. The two of them and Henry's good buddy Patrick, the man with the magic eye. It's kind of fun in this part because Patrick's got the magic eye that can see naked women miles and miles away. And Henry's lost an eye at this point. Even as a cook, he's seen battle. He's one-eyed, Patrick is all-seeing with his eye, and Villanelle is just this mysterious woman who comes into his life and shows him how to love. And really, not just how to love, she shows him how to fuck. So he fucks her well. And I love this point in the book, because she makes the point. He loves her well because she showed him how. Ladies, take this to point. Us dudes need instruction. Sure. Most of the time, we're contented just to lay on top of you, humping away. We see that bored look in your eye. We're bored too. Show us how to do something different, and then we can love you well, just like Henry gives Villanelle a good old-fashioned pounding in this novel. Now, they make their way. Well, Patrick does die. It's sad, but people die. He's a side character. Moving on. They make their way down to Venice. Villanelle's home. She gets to show Henry the ever-changing landscape, the magical landscape that is Venice. The city on its canals, where two streets never intersect in quite the same place, We're in squares. One church will be there one day, a different the next day. Henry makes the point it's like they're growing churches here like vegetables. It's always different. It's always changing. She shows him the canals, but he can never know the ways of the boatman, because he is not a boatman, whereas Villanelle is. Now, it's a great contrast because you start out this chapter with Henry still kind of a weakling. He's freezing to death in Russia. And you got Villanelle as a whore. And by the end of the chapter, they're in Venice. They're in a warm place. They're well fed by Villanelle's parents. And to prove his newfound passion, Henry is a young man. We often change our passions in life. His new passion is Villanelle. She's shown him how to love a woman. He impregnates her. So she is his passion. And to prove it, he steals her heart back. Quite literally, actually, in this book. He has to go to her former mistress's mansion and steal Villanelle's heart back for her. Which is foreshadowing. Because when a heart is taken, one must be given? Well, it's not really given here. It's taken forcibly. The villain, the fat cook, he comes back into the story. He is going to sell Villanelle back to the French officers. He knows Henry is a deserter. He's going to turn him in as a deserter. Henry, he could have probably accepted his own fate, which he does in chapter 4, but he doesn't like the threats to Villanelle. So he attacks the cook, and he wins this time. It's really the first battle he's probably ever won in his life in a fight. But he wins this one, and he takes the cook's fucking heart. She ain't telling you stories here, guys. Trust me. He takes the cook's fucking heart out with a knife. Oh, it's awesome. Rips it from his fucking chest, holds it, and presents it to his love. Look at this. Like he's Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. Well, the bad guy in it, but anyway, he's holding that heart for her. Look, I bring you a gift. So, takes us to the final chapter, chapter 4, where Henry's in prison for murder. Now, Venice being a corrupt, ever-changing, mysterious city, Villanelle secures his release. The lawyers can't do it. They're worthless in that way. But she can, through her newfound riches. Oh, because the cook, her husband, he was a rich dude. He had a successful business selling farm animals and livestock to the French to try to feed their soldiers. She's still legally his wife, so she inherits his riches. And with that money, she secures Henry's release. But Henry knows she doesn't return his love once more. He has put his passion into someone that doesn't quite return it for him. And this takes us to where Henry's in a very melancholy place. He doesn't want to escape. He's got a new home. He's at home in prison. Now, this isn't all that Villanelle does with her riches. She buys the house across the street from her old lover. And one night, they catch each other's eye across the alleyway, across the street. They see each other. And the mistress is happy to see her again, especially in a mansion of her own. They kind of look at each other, and it's nice, but it's not to be. Villanelle even knows the passion for this woman was the passion of a much younger woman. While Villanelle still loves to gamble, she likes the casinos, she has a child now. She's a mother. And that passion is gone. Just like Henry's passion for her, it's fading as well. She goes and visits Henry with her child. She'll bolt out to the windows by the prison. She'll wave. Henry, he's melancholy. And it kind of sounds sad, but this is where Miss Winterson's writing really took on a new aspect for me. Because this is clearly masculine. She is writing in Henry. Henry has a voice now. Or maybe she does this purposefully, to show that as he matures, he finds his own voice. And he sees ghosts. He sees the dead. He remembers Josephine, the billiard lady that stole the heart of Napoleon. She was also a botanist. For those who don't know, botany is the love of growing plants. It's a science class, we'll get to that later. But he tries to make this prison, because it was a prison that used to be a chateau on an island. He knows it can be a beautiful place, and that's his place in the world now. He knows what he did was wrong. He murdered someone. He accepts it. But he tries to beautify the garden of the prison. It's covered in rocks and other just stones from where Venice was attacked again and again and again. But he's a man of war. So he wants to take something that's been torn apart by war, even something as mundane as a prison. It's his own little corner of the world, and he knows it's where he belongs. He writes to Josephine, and she sends him seeds, happy that a French citizen, even in this far corner of the world, well, I guess it's not that far, it's just south in Italy, but still, she's happy a Frenchman is trying to grow plants, so she sends him seeds, and he plants them. And you can't say happy. Henry is melancholy as can be here at the end, but he's satisfied. And that's probably even more important. Happiness can be fleeting. He's no longer seeking that happiness, but he is satisfied in his place in life. The same with Villanelle. She's satisfied for the moment, but she still has that gambler's heart. Her own heart, back, in her body, beating once more. It doesn't just beat for her child, it beats for the future adventures she is sure to have. She is going to go on where Henry cannot. Guys, I feel like I didn't do this book justice. I'm telling you, go out, get it, read it twice. Please, read it twice. Just to find a little piece of beauty in this world, because that's what Ms. Winterson gave us. This novel truly is. Oh, maybe The Sun Also Rises is prettier, maybe. It also holds there's just certain books you read them, and you glean that magic from them. The magic from that art, it strikes you, it makes you better as a person. That's what this book has done for me. It made me a better person, just having read it. I don't know if I'm more passionate, still just a dude, but it makes me want to read more women's writing. Dread even thinking about it, but I gotta see where this book came from. What inspired such beauty? Probably means reading poetry and flowery bullshit like that. But goddamn it, if that stuff leads to beauty such as this, it's worth the risk. As they would say in the book, it's worth the gamble. So for any and all of you out there who have not read Jeanette Winterson's The Passion, please, I implore you, go out and read it now, because you never know, guys. You just might like it more than me.